I used to do a kids show called Africa Weird and Wonderful. And I asked the kids once if they could tell me what Africans ate. And one kid jumped up, put their hand up, and they said they eat flies and insects. Now, this is not a surprise given how badly Africans are portrayed, because this is the one thing that surprised me most when I first left Africa, is to see how badly Africans are portrayed. It's as though somebody wants to portray us in a very negative light, somehow maybe to justify the actions that have been performed on Africa. So anyway, I have been trying to understand who I am, where all of these came from, because when you grow up in Africa, we are actually quite sheltered from we don't even learn about things like the slave trade. We don't learn a great deal about this, but I decided to start right from the beginning, and I started looking at this book. It's called We the Prehistoric People, the Akikuyu of British East Africa. Now, I have been quite fascinated by a lot of the things that I've seen here. And so this is what she says about the diet, the Agikuyu diet. And I said this on Twitter, and anyway, I'll tell you in just a minute. But this is what she says about the Agikuyu diet. The Agikuyu may be looked on as essentially vegetarians. Meat in the form of beef, mutton, and goat's flesh, though it is frequently eaten, is a luxury of the few and only partaken in small quantity on occasions of sacrifice or festival. Now, I actually say this on Twitter, when I used to be on Twitter, and it used to be called Twitter. I actually said that my tribe, the Agikuyu people, before colonialism, were almost entirely vegan. And this woman from Norway, she basically got onto my back, and she was like, no, I know you eat meat. And I was like, you're going to tell me about who we are? But I know this for certain. Okay, nowadays affluent people do eat plenty of meat in amongst my tribe, okay? And this comes with affluence. So the more affluent the countries become, the more meat they tend to eat. But before colonialism, meat was, first of all, goats and sheep and cattle. They were actually wealth. And you didn't just want to exploit your wealth just by killing them and just eating them whenever you wanted to. It was mainly if there was a function. So, for example, a wedding, or if there was a birth, or perhaps if there was a need to sacrifice to Guy, our god, because maybe we wanted rain or whatever. So there must have to have been a reason to eat meat. People just didn't think, oh, let's go and just have, steak and whatever. It just wasn't like that at all. So our diet consisted of actually pretty healthy food. And I'm convinced it's almost entirely vegan, because milk was never really drunk in any great quantity. So the boys, when they were out herding, could drink a little bit of milk. The young children could be given a little bit of goat milk, but that was the extent of our milk drinking. And of course, we did not have processed food. We didn't have things like cheese or anything like this. And I remember the first time I tasted cheese, I was 19 or 20. I tasted cheese and I was like, what the hell is this? I found cheese to be quite vile the first time I tasted it. Now I love it. At the time I thought it was quite vile. Now, so I said this on Twitter, and so this woman from Norway, she was like, no, you eat meat or whatever. And I said our lives were almost completely vegan, because on a day-to-day basis, this is what we used to eat. We used to eat mokimo. Mokimo is basically potatoes. It's like an interesting type of mash. Potatoes mashed together with different variety of beans, and sometimes they would replace the potatoes with banana, sweet banana. Actually, my favorite meal is jahe, which is black, the purplish black beans with a white stripe, and they when they're mashed with banana, so delicious. And other pulses, we used to just mash them together with pumpkin leaves. We ate wild nettle for breakfast, and I still remember this. For breakfast, we actually used to eat sweet potato for breakfast. And I remember my grandma, how she used to make sweet potato. She used to bury it in the embers, because in a Gikuyu home, you never let the fire go out, which is, I used to see my grandmother do that, and I never really got it. But in a Gikuyu home, the fire never really went out. So what we would do, because it's continuity. You just, when you built a new home, you had a fire, and that fire, you never let it go out. At night, you cover it with ash, and then there's the embers, and those embers are perfect for baking. So we would bake potatoes in there. You bury potatoes in there, and sweet potato, and by the time you wake up in the morning, you would have hot, freshly baked sweet potato. That's what people used to eat for breakfast, or porridge. And we had things like sorghum, and things like sorghum and millet are rarely available these days, because the one thing that the British did when they came was got rid of all the native food, and they planted coffee and tea. And of course, this is why in many cases you see there's a threat to food, because that land never actually went back to people, and a lot of that land was actually destroyed by monoculture and soil exhaustion. So we were never able to go back to that type of food, although to a great extent, you know, these foods still remain to this day. So anyway, this is what Catherine Rutledge says in her book with her husband, with a prehistoric people, the Kikuyu of British East Africa. So this is what she says. As regards food, the Kikuyu are very conservative in their taste and have a real repugnance to even try, when offered to them, any cereals or vegetables other than those they are accustomed to. White European bread and biscuits are not their palate. Are not to their palates. Sugar and salt are. So the last, in its refined state, white European form, like the white sugar, is always by strangers suspected of being poison. It kind of is. Refined sugar is actually poison. It is poison, and is almost certainly refused. They, however, accept with avidity the crude yellow-brown crystals with plenty of coral grit amongst them, which is the trade article and obtained by the evaporation of seawater. Here's the thing. So the Europeans arrived. By Europeans, I mean the British arrived in Kenya. They found my tribe, the Gikuyu people, and they find we have a very good diet. And what they left us with is diabetes. Subscribe, follow me. I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Threads, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. Take care for now. Bye.